Hey friends, welcome to today's video. I am sharing a extra large Deco Mesh wreath with you. Guys, I love the way that this turned out. It was quite a bit of work, but I am satisfied with the end result. If you're new here, my name is Tracy. I love to share crafty ideas with a bit of rustic country charm. I hope that you will consider subscribing to my channel if you like what you see here. So guys, let's go ahead and get started and let me share how I created this extra large Deco Mesh wreath. The inspiration for this extra large wreath is this ribbon that I got from Michaels, and that is what led me to create this sign for my wreath. Now I have a separate video where I show how I painted up, how I did the truck, how I hand painted the sign, as well as any of the other embellishments. I put the little pumpkin patch on the back. I will link to it in the description below, as well as in the card. This video right here is showing how I did the extra large Deco Mesh wreath. This wreath is using one of the 18-inch wire forms. Now I got this one from the Dollar Tree. These are the 10-inch mesh that I am using. They all came from Hobby Lobby. And here's just the back side so that you can see the burlap snowball mesh, as well as a specialty fall mesh and a regular burlap mesh. So for this specialty mesh, what I did is I measured out 12 inches of all of them. So all three rolls, I measured out 12 inches, and I'm going to use all three of these together to put in a bundle to put onto the wreath. So how I make my bundles, cruffles, ruffles, whatever you want to call it, I use little clips. They kind of help me just in my wreath making. I bend over the ends so that they're not, frayed or ragged at the ends. And so I just fold it over 2 times. I clip it, and then I turn it around, fold it over again, clip that. And then that is what I'm going to put all together in like an X pattern. And then I'm just attaching them to my wreath with a pipe cleaner. So for this 18-inch wire frame, I used 22 bundles of the 3 mesh together. I ended up using one whole mesh roll of the specialty mesh, the fall mesh. I didn't quite use the whole rolls of the snowball mesh and the burlap. I get questions about that, and honestly guys, there are some times that I have a little bit on one roll. Like I don't start a full roll when I'm doing a wreath, and so I will try my best to tell y'all bundles, but the way that I work, sometimes it doesn't work like that. And so since I'm a wreath maker, I always have tons and tons of mesh. But for this wreath frame, I did use 22 of the bundles, putting them on this wireframe with a pipe cleaner. And then how I put on my bundles is I go on the inner ring, I go on the outer ring, I go on the inner ring, I go on the outer ring. So then here it is all finished with my 22 bundles of this 10-inch Deco Mesh. So then for the next layer, I'm using this 10-inch orange and white mesh that I picked up from Michaels, and I'm cutting this at 8 inches because I just want a small color on the burlap. I don't want a whole, since this mesh roll is a little bit smaller. I just want just a tiny bit of accent color. And so then I used 11 of these orange and white 8-inch mesh in this wreath. Here are my ribbons that I'm using in this wreath. And so this blue truck with the pumpkins that I did get from Michael's, I did not want to chop up my truck because that would just be such a shame because it's so cute. So I ended up cutting 2 trucks length of the ribbon, and that actually measured to 14 inches, which worked out great. So then I just adjusted my other ribbon sizes to accommodate what I wanted to do for this wreath. And so what I'm showing here is I almost always dovetail my ribbons, and I dovetail by just folding it in half and then folding it in half again, and then just using my scissors to cut a V-cut or a dovetail. Now the exception of not dovetailing is when I use window pane mesh, or if I use some stripe mesh that I don't want it's going to look odd. So I just, make that determination. Okay. So I get some questions about my tiny attacher. Now y'all have seen me use this before, and I was, the most common question is, can I use a regular staple? Absolutely. I just like to use this tiny attacher because it puts a teeny tiny staple in my, or in the ribbon when I gather it together. I like to use these, I like to do mine in bundles so that when I, put it in my wreath, I can just go. And so it puts a teeny tiny staple in there so that when I gather it together, it's not bulky. It I don't even know that the staple is there. So absolutely, if you want to use a regular staple, go right ahead. I'm just kind of sharing what works for me. Okay. So, for the blue truck with the pumpkins, I paired it with the plaid, from Michael's as well. And so what I'm kind of sharing here is this is how I'm going to shape my ribbon to put on my Deco Mesh wreath. And then I will just, put it in the wreath. And what I do is, since this is a larger wreath, because usually I use a 14-inch wire form, but this is an 18-inch. And so what I'm also doing is adding in some raffia, and I just tie it off, just put a knot in it. And I put the raffia in with the orange and burlap and the gold, and I kind of do a tic-tac-toe pattern. I did the the trucks, then I did the burlap bundle, and then I did the orange and the gold. And so then I just kind of go in a tic-tac-toe pattern all the way around the wreath until it is, I'm completely full. Then I attached my truck sign in the middle, and I used these cable ties that I get from Amazon, and these work great if you don't have, signs that have holes in them, some that you can put wire in them, or if you don't want to put a hole in a sign, these cable ties work great, and you can find them in my Amazon store. And so then another tip that I just want to share that I learned by watching another wreath maker is just putting a tiny dot of glue on some of the ribbons if you don't want them to move around, just like these blue truck. I want it to kind of stay in place. I want the plaid to be showing. So I just put a tiny dot of glue behind each of the blue truck ribbons. And I just added some fall florals into this wreath. I get my fall florals from Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Walmart, some high-end, more quality flowers from the Dollar Tree. I also added more dimension by adding a few of these pumpkins that I had in my stash. And I'm kind of showing you here how I input the picks. I just use some skewers, and I make sure that they are secure. I glue them into, the pumpkin, and then I add them to my wreath. All right, guys, as I said, this wreath I consider it an extra large because it is made on an 18-inch wire frame. I usually use the 14-inch frame. So, this wreath, the pictures really do it justice because it is just such a large wreath. And I hope that the person that this ends up adorning their door enjoys it for many years to come. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Check out my other videos if you like wreath tutorials. I also have a playlist of other wreath signs that I have created, and I will continue to do more. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We will talk to you all very soon. God bless.